Okay, so now we're going to paint our color wheel around our name. You've got a pan of tempera cakes. How these work is that you take clean water and you put water into the paint just by dipping your brush into a can of water and dropping the water droplets on the paint. All right, next, you're going to start with the primary colors. So our primary colors are magenta, yellow, and blue. Doesn't matter which of the three you start with, but I'm going to start with magenta because it's up here in the top left corner on my paper. So I start by swirling my paintbrush into my paint. I want to make sure I'm not like jabbing it into the paint and I'm not damaging the brush. I'm just going to lightly swirl this into the paint. I'm not pressing hard. And I want to swirl it until the paint becomes fairly thick. All right. Once I've got my paint fairly thick, I'm going to paint this on, and this is the hue. So this is the color by itself. So I'm going to paint this into the middle section. And if your paint looks watery, then you'll need to go back and mix it some more. It should not look like watercolor. It should be thick like paint. And just spread that out in that section. Stay inside your lines. Okay. So now that I've done my magenta section, now I have to do the tint of magenta. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my brush while it still has magenta on it. I'm going to make a few dots of magenta throughout that. Then I'm going to wash my brush off quickly and dry my brush off, make sure there's no magenta left. And I'm going to go to the white. I'm going to swirl it around in my white paint. Then I'm going to take that and I'm going to mix it on the paper. Into the tint section. The tint is what's closest to your name. And tint is color plus white. I'll wash my brush off, dry my brush off, go back into the magenta paint. And I'm going to do the shade. So the shade is color plus black. It's going to be up here at the top. I'll start by erasing the word magenta so it doesn't show through. I'm going to paint this whole section magenta. If you get it on the table, it's all right. It'll wash off the table. It's washable paint. All right, now while this is still wet, I'm going to wash my brush off, dry my brush off, come over to the black, and pick up a little bit of black paint and mix it into the magenta. And spread that out. It should look kind of like this color. And you'll try to smooth that out as much as you can. Okay, so my magenta section is complete. I'll wash my brush out, I'll dry my brush off. Then I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to wipe out the white just in case it got a little bit of magenta in it to keep it nice and clean. Then the next one I'm going to do is yellow. So yellow is the same process as magenta. I'm going to start by mixing, swirling my paintbrush into the yellow paint like that. get it all nice and activated. It should feel thicker than water. And I'm going to do the middle section of yellow. Okay. Then I'm going to do a few drops of yellow paint. You'll notice I did a lot less yellow paint in the tint. That's because yellow is really light and white is really light. We want to be able to see a difference. Now I'm going to mix into the white paint. So I've got my clean white paint. I'm going to mix the yellow that's here into that. And it should make like a light tint of yellow. If you made it a little bit too light, you can wash your brush off, dry your brush off, get more yellow paint and mix that in. But you really want to make sure that you're not making it the same color as the hue. You should definitely be able to see a difference between the two. Okay. So now I've got my tint, my hue, and I'm going to do the shade. So again, for the shade, erasing the word yellow at the top. I'm going to start with the color yellow. Pick a lot of yellow up on my brush. And then paint this section in. If you made a mistake and you went outside of the lines, you can wash your brush off, dry your brush off, and you can just wipe this off with a clean, dry brush and then press it with a paper towel. It'll lift the color if you're fast enough. All right, so to make the shade of yellow, I'm going to dip into the black and I'm going to mix this with black. And it's going to make an almost green type of color. If yours looks straight up black, then you've used too much black and you'll have to add more yellow. If you find yours difficult to mix, that means you need to add a little bit more paint. Okay. Now that I've got this all spread out and mixed in, I'm going to start trying to smooth it out. Okay. All right, so yellow, the color will look like this. It'll be light, medium, dark. And if you feel like it, maybe you made it a little bit too dark, you can always add more yellow into it, mix it up, and it will make your color easier to blend. I think mine was a teeny tiny bit too dark, so I added a bit more yellow so I can smooth this out better. Tempera paint dries up pretty quick, so you'll need to stay focused. All right. It looks better. All right, the last one I'm going to do in this video is blue. So just like the other one, you're going to start with your blue, swirl it around till it becomes like a gel consistency. It's got to be thicker than water. And I'm going to paint this middle section. And you can rotate your paper and move it around however you need to in order to make it easier to paint. All right. Once that section's painted, then just like the other ones, I'm going to do a few dots of blue in the tint. Wash my brush off, dry my brush off, get the white paint, swirl it around, and mix it with the paint that's already here. And it should make a really pretty pastel light blue. Right. And for the shade of blue, I'm gonna wash my brush out, dry it off, take blue, paint this entire section blue. If you get paint on your table at the end of class, you're going to take a wet paper towel, wipe your table off. All right, now I'm going to take black paint. I'm going to swirl it around, make sure that I don't have too much. If you have too much, you can always just press it, like dab it onto a paper towel, get some of that extra paint off, and then mix it in. If already you can tell you've done too much black, like I have too much black, I'm washing my brush out, drying it off. I'm going to go back into the blue paint and get some more blue paint and start spreading that out. You want to make a navy type color. And the thicker you make your paint, the easier all of this will be to do. Okay. Kind of hard to tell, but it is navy. It isn't black. Okay. It's hard to tell in the video. So that's what your 3 primary colors will look like when you're done. Take a picture of it, turn it into this assignment.